This is Gesher, the podcast that's bridging the gap between the Jewish and evangelical Christian communities with conversations that matter. Here's your host, Ty Perry, with the Friends of Israel Gospel Ministry.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Gesher. I'm really excited for another conversation that will hopefully bridge the gap between the Jewish and evangelical communities. And I'm glad to have as my conversation partner today my friend Shlomi Bennett of Jewish Frontline. Jewish Frontline is a grassroots movement centered on unapologetic Jewish visibility and continuity. His work challenges erasure while helping build confident, future-facing Jewish communities. Shlomi and I have done a number of conversations like this. I encourage you to go back and listen to some of those. But we're here today to talk about something new. Shlomi, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Shlomi, this topic today, our show is about the exile mindset versus the sovereign Judaism or sovereign mindset among the Jewish community. I have to admit, this is I'm kind of a spectator to this. I'm not in the Jewish community in this way, but I think it's still important for people to consider this, whether you're Jewish or you're not, but you're just listening to this conversation. And I think it will help to explain Zionism, and it ties in anti-Semitism and the diaspora. We're going to talk about quite a few things here.
Yeah.
But I want to frame this with something of a cultural incident that happened earlier this year. This is 2026 at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there was an ad. Of course, the ads are usually the bigger show than the Super Bowl.
Right.
And there's an ad from the Blue Square campaign, which is, I think, rooted in a good idea that we want to push back against anti-Semitism. And so it's like kind of like we had the Black Lives Matter movement and others where you have a square of a certain color with a hashtag and it gets all over social media and raises awareness. Okay. Well, this campaign, though, sponsored by Robert Kraft, who's a billionaire. He's the majority owner, at least, of the New England Patriots, and he's behind this campaign. The ad that was shown got a lot of blowback from the Jewish community. My algorithm on social media thinks I'm Jewish, so it shows me all this stuff. So I'm seeing all these conversations. And basically what happened, well, no, you tell us, what happened in the ad that caused the problem?
So the ad, for those who missed it, was of a Jewish kid walking down the hallway in his public school, and he's getting shoved around and laughed at, and someone slaps a sign on his backpack that says Jew. I don't think he didn't notice it until he was putting it in his locker, and as he's looking at it, so someone reaches over his shoulder and puts a blue sticky note over the label, and he looks up and it's this tall, handsome African-American young man, and he puts his arm over his shoulder and he goes, Don't worry, I understand, I got you. And they walk off with this guy arm towering over this little Jew boy, just kind of like escorting him away. And I think the idea of what it was supposed to be was to kind of, introduce the idea of empathy,
being an upstander,
right?
Not a bystander,
right, and kind of standing up for, if you see something, say something, type of thing. Don't let it just perpetuate in the environment around you. But it just was not the messaging that the Jewish community actually wants out right now.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I heard all so my opinion was colored by what I was hearing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I watched it, and at first I thought, that's nice. Like, we should stick up for, that's my whole world, like sticking up for the Jewish people.
Right.
However, as you're saying, it got a lot of pushback because it portrayed the Jewish people once again as victim and weak.
Yeah, weak.
So how did you feel just personally when you saw it?
I laughed, and I was like, oh, come on. And I was like, yeah, like we need to be protected by our big black brothers, like that's what we need. We're just historically the blacks and the Jews have always had a great alliance, but like it just seemed like we were like, oh my God, I wish I had my black neighbor again because he would like protect me because I can't protect myself. It was just so I don't know. You even forget the fact that the kid was a tall black dude towering over him. Just the fact that we need anyone to come save us right now.
Gentiles are persecuting you, and Gentiles are also going to be your savior.
Right. So it's like it's like the Stockholm syndrome almost, where it's like we're constantly looking for the approval of others and the permission of others to exist, and it really speaks into what I call the exile mindset of diaspora Jews.
So let's define diaspora because some people don't know. So the diaspora refers to the Jewish people being dispersed, scattered around the world. I mean, you have exile, biblically speaking, you have the Assyrian exile of the northern kingdoms, followed by the Babylonian exile. This is all, for Christian listeners, this is all Old Testament. This is Jeremiah, this is Ezekiel, this is the Tanakh. But it also refers to the global dispersion, which is why you have Jewish people in Detroit. And for the record, Shlomi, I'm glad there's Jewish people in Detroit. I have my Jewish friends. But that was a result, largely, of the reason there is dispersion, according to the book of Leviticus and Deuteronomy, would be Israel's national sin. And God would, when they sinned, he would disperse them around the world. And one of their sins, ironically, was that they wanted to be like the nations. They were always going over after the other gods, false gods and worship systems. And that didn't work out for them in God's economy because he scatters them when they do that.
Right.
So let's talk about how that really the same mentality of trying to fit in and assimilate, be like the nations, has worked out for the Jewish people today.
I mean, it just seems to be our go-to posture, our natural pose, because, like you said, it was what we were doing back in the biblical days, back when we literally had the spirit of God dwelling among us, and Jews straight out of Egypt, witnessing the sea split, the manna, all these kind of great miracles, and they miscount the days that Moses went up on Sinai, and bam, they built a golden calf and they were worshiping that. And it was like, it really didn't take much for us, it always seemed like we're always looking for an out, and
let's be fair.
Yeah.
I always tell people Jewish people are Jewish, but they're people.
Right.
And that's a human problem, not just like uniquely Jewish.
So,
but
yes. And so, and yes. And so for those listening, who have read about the Jewish people and think about the Jewish people in the biblical sense, we're not like a ultra holy entity. We're not angels. We're not something straight out of the Bible. We're out of the Bible, but we are humans just like everyone else. Yeah. We sin, we have desires, we have dreams and aspirations, and we can be misguided and confused just like anybody else can.
So in modern times, and by modern I mean not the biblical times. Even though they were trying to be like the nations, that was an impulse because they wanted to go after the gods of other nations. That's not what we're talking about so much. We're talking about the desire for approval, acceptance of the Jewish people today.
Right.
Where does, in your opinion, what motivates that desire?
Well, I think it stems from, that biblical thing. It's kind of just our habit, our perpetual habit, and it's a kind of our struggle, and I think that's kind of the part of the whole point is that God, why he gave us those commandments and said, this is what you got. If it came naturally and if it was just going to be instinctive, then it wouldn't be a big deal for us to do it. Mm-hmm. I think it's almost part of the Jewish nature to struggle with these things, again, like, we're B'nai Israel, yeah. And Jacob was named that for the whole struggle. I mean, that was the
struggle. He struggles with God.
Yeah.
And B'nai Israel, sons of Israel.
Yeah. And so, we inherited that struggle, and that's just part of the story. But you've always seen Jews wanting to be accepted once from that dispersion, even always trying to even before the dispersion, even before the Roman exile, during Roman occupation in the land of Israel. I mean, Jews were going as far as reversing their circumcisions to be able to be in the Olympics.
Well, the days of the Maccabees.
Yeah.
And the Maccabees were a reaction against that.
Right. So this was even before we were fully dispersed in the land, or even after, original sins. This has just been the pattern for forever. Why I can't tell you for sure, but
if you believed in the sin nature, Shlomi, you'd have an answer, but we disagree on that. I know.
But so I'm just gonna have to chalk it up to it being what God wants from us. He wants, like we were having an earlier discussion about homosexuality, and just desires and struggles that we have in this world, and whether they're, I was telling you that I believe that we're meant to have these desires and these struggles, and it's something that we're supposed to try to overcome. Are we always going to perfectly overcome them? No, but we're meant to struggle with them.
To bring it back, so like in that commercial, that young Jewish boy, he wasn't trying to, in my opinion, he's not portrayed as trying to get the approval of Gentiles or anything like that.
No.
But he is seen as weak.
Right.
And for the irony of Jewish history, in the West at least, is that Jewish people are at once considered way too weak and way too powerful.
Right.
So where does I hear what you're saying about the desire to kind of be accepted and things like that.
Yeah.
But where does this idea of being, like, even the self-perception among Jewish people, maybe, and correct me if I'm not saying that correctly, but like the self-perception of, well, we're weak, we can't do much. Where does that come? Because this is Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
He's Jewish. He put this forward. Where does that mindset come from?
I mean, it comes from thousands of years of being in exile, of thousands of years of constantly relying on the graces of others.
By force, really.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is a survival survival tactic, to make yourself palatable, to make yourself seem as little of a threat as possible. This is kind of why Yiddish comedy became so popular in America, was because it portrayed, why were Jews so successful in comedy? Or who were the Jews that were successful in comedy? Or the ones that made themselves portrayed themselves as neurotic, as kind of like, kvetchy and neurotic, and just
Woody Allen,
Woody Allen, and even Seinfeld, yeah. So like these guys, like their whole bit, they became popular because it was basically acceptable for Jews. The accepted Jew was the neurotic Jew, but
Gal Gadot, that's a different kind of Jew,
right? I mean,
that's
Wonder Woman you're talking
Wonder
about.
Woman,
yeah. So I mean, but
that's not as accepted.
But now, who's Gal Gadot? Gal Gadot is a strong Israeli woman,
exactly.
And Israelis, in my opinion, do not carry the exile mindset.
Shlomi, that is the understatement of the year. Go to Israel and ask if you just see if you think they have exile mindset.
No,
nothing. No. Explain what you're talking about.
No. So Israelis are a sovereign people and a sovereign state. That's all they've ever known growing up. They have no concept of having to make themselves smaller for their neighbors, for to make people comfortable around them.
Because in that neighborhood of the world, being weak, you'll be
eaten up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so trying to how do we give an example to people who have never experienced.
Well, I mean, Israelis have a "I'm here, get used to it" idea, and I think what you're saying is, at least historically, Jews outside of the diaspora, and this is painting in a broad brush, but have had the "I'm sorry, I'm here" mentality.
Well, yeah, I think and I think that's exactly that. I mean, our answer has always been in the diaspora to make ourselves indispensable, to make ourselves non-threatening, and rely on contributions to the fabric of that society to maintain our existence. And historically, it's never held up. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could look at go back to shoot. I had a list.
Well, Zionism itself begins, the movement begins because Herzl sees the assimilation, "sorry, I'm here" mentality in France isn't working. Right. If it won't work there, it won't work anywhere.
No.
Right.
And looking at just historically, every part of every civilization that Jews were a part of made themselves indispensable to, eventually got kicked out from, and then the fall of that civilization that followed short after. I mean, look at Spain, look at England, look at Spain, obviously 1492, England, and I think it was, I can't remember if it was
in the 12s. I think it happened a couple times, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was going to say in the 13s, but okay, yeah. But I mean, you could be right.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. But and then the Arabic countries after 1948, everywhere where you kicked out the Jews, it was shortly followed by economic collapse of what was a great societal hub. It
was 1290. We'll split the difference.
Okay, all right, there we go. Right.
Yeah, it certainly impacted them societally.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna quote this again. The mission of Jewish Frontline, of which you are the founder, is centered on, and I'm quoting here, "unapologetic Jewish visibility and continuity." That does not sound like exile mindset,
right?
So what's behind that? What do you think? What should be the mindset of Jewish people in the diaspora today?
So I believe that it should look a lot more like the Israeli mindset, mm-hmm. in the way that we shouldn't be asking for permission to exist. A lot of diaspora, particularly in America, American Jews have learned to rely on institutional structure, intervene, large organizations intervening on their behalf.
And to be fair, on that point, post 1945, the world was a different place, even in its view of Jews. I mean, I'm not saying it was this philo-Semitic place, but there was not a toleration of the anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism that's emerged in the last decade or so.
Right.
And so those institutions could hold, but now they're crumbling.
Right. And I mean, I think if those institutions had been doing the legwork and maintaining that same tenacity as from back then we wouldn't be here where we are today. Mm-hmm. But I think also, because we are where we are today, Jews have to move away from that institutional framework. They have to stop waiting for permission from the federations. They need to stop waiting for permission from just the community in a whole. If you see an issue as a Jew in your community, you need to speak up, you need to shout out, you need to demand the same response as any other minority group would have demanded it. And so many Jews almost operate as if they don't deserve to have that kind of representation or
do you think it's
equality.
do you think it's a lack of, like, they don't feel that they deserve it? Or do you think it could be, or maybe it's also a remnant, kind of a last vestige of a trust in institutions to do the work that maybe, as you've said, you feel they've failed to do?
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of it as well? Like, they're still relying on the institutions to do the work.
Right. Like a lot of people, I mean, I see so much in Jewish communities, particularly in the Detroit community where I'm working. I can't say for every other community, but so often I see where people want to sound the alarms, but they don't actually want to do any work. You know, so like they do want to rely on these institutions, but right now we're operating in a time and a place where these institutions cannot do what needs to be done on localized community levels, or they're working within constraints of national organizations, of pre-existing relationships. So you know they're. A Jewish federation isn't going to approach a local issue with the same chutzpah and tenacity and that grassroots efforts or people from the community being affected by that issue are going to approach it. Which, you know, I think both things are necessary. I think you need to have that diplomatic approach and, you know, maintain those relationships, but there also needs to, like, for example, care. The center of Council on American and Islamic Relations,
yes,
right?
CAIR care.
Yeah.
Yep.
They will pursue every perceived injustice on their community with such a tenacity that these school districts, large institutions, they fear to be contacted by CARE.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear from them. And then they'll bend over backwards to placate that community because they don't want to end up hearing from CARE.
And to be clear, you're not endorsing CARE, which
I'm
is
not
a very bad
endorsing-
organization,
no.
but you can see
Where
good qualities of how they approach
right.
things.
Their approach to things is what's given their community so much leeway, I guess. I don't know, or so much.
Well, they have clout.
Yeah, they have clout. Yeah.
So let's look at this just very practically. And I don't mean to pick. I don't want to even pick on the Detroit community. I love the Detroit community, but let's say, or let's consider that relatively recently, we had a terrorist from Dearborn.
Yeah.
Attempt an attack at Temple Israel, largest Reformed synagogue, I think, in the country.
Yeah. Or second, at least in the country.
One
Biggest
of the
in Michigan,
largest,
for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in a case like that, and God forbid something like that happens again, what does a grassroots sovereign Jewish mindset look like a sovereign Jewish response versus the exile mindset?
So that would look like organizing security for themselves.
Okay.
Putting together community watch groups,
This
making
is
sure
pre such an attack.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying we should be doing this.
Yeah.
This is what we should be doing. We should be organizing just about everything that needs to be done for the community should be handled by the community. We shouldn't be outsourcing our security. We shouldn't be outsourcing our education. We shouldn't be outsourcing our advocacy. this all needs to be done for the people, by the people, you know, and
spoken like a true American Jew.
Thank you.
I like
yeah.
that.
You know, and that's when we don't take that responsibility onto ourselves, then we're not going to pass on the right armor to the next generation. Like, big issue I'm seeing right now in Hebrew day schools, is that they're not fortifying these future, you know, our future generations with the right equipment to then go out into the world, interact with the world, and just naturally be able to advocate for themselves because it's in their bones. You know what I mean? People ask me all the time, oh, like how are you able to go onto these podcasts with Ty? How are you able to advocate and do this and that? And it's like, because this is me. I'm not like I talk and it comes out because it is ingrained inside of me. It's been ingrained in me since childhood. My entire education has been revolved around being Jewish. And do I keep everything? Am I a super observant crazy Jew, you know? No, absolutely not. You know, I've got tattoos. I've eaten cheeseburgers. I do not keep Shabbos to the standard that the Orthodox
You don't have to
hold.
confess to me,
But,
Shlomi. It's okay.
But, you know, but I'm just saying, like, but I'm still like, no one would question Shlomi Bennett's a Jew. Like, right. I'm as Jewish as they come, you know? I've been told I'm one of the real ones, you know?
I can see that.
And I think that comes from just that deep education. And so often American Jews and Jews of the diaspora want to kind of separate between the religion and the peoplehood, and they kind of want to create little, well, I'm this and I'm not that. But the reality is that it's all encompassing. It's all the same. It's all part of each other. And the minute you try separating it, you automatically diluted your identity. American Jews have to learn how to be Jewish and to be Jews, and understand that you can't separate the peoplehood from the religion.
Let me ask you about that. Jewish identity. So we've talked about that in other episodes, but when it comes to affirming that, like you just said, like we need to be proud Jews. We're Jews and that's who we are, and we're not going to apologize for it. Do you think that there is any kind of a wedge then between that Jewish identity and an American identity? And we've talked a little bit about this. Like you were saying, essentially, for Jewish people, we need to be Jews first.
Yeah.
You know, those who, there would be some who would bristle at that outside of the Jewish community, maybe even inside, who would say,
yeah, for sure.
Like, well, you know, you benefit so much from America. Like, to their ears, it might sound like you're saying, hey, I'm here, I'm going to take what I can get, but I'm Jewish first. Yeah. Knowing you, I don't think that's your perspective. So how would you answer somebody who said that?
Well, and I think I mentioned this earlier, being Jewish first is being American first, because historically what the Jews have built for themselves and built for their communities have always benefited the rest of the American society around them. Yeah,
we talked about this, just for listeners, in our last episode, anti-Semitism across the political spectrum. So that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. And so for you to be Jewish first, for you to be Jewish, and that means to think about your community and building for your community, and not necessarily being isolationists, but just intentionally building for a purpose and being particular for your people, that will build a strong American community, a strong Jewish American community. People respect people who respect themselves. You know, it's if Jews would be Jews for the sake of being Jews in America and not try to make themselves American Jews, then their neighbors would respect them. Their neighbors would understand it a lot more, I think. You know, I think a big issue right now in what we see with people not understanding Judaism and American Jews is that we have spent so much time trying to dilute our identities to make it palatable and understandable to everyone else, whereas every other minority group has said, this is who we are. You've got to learn to accept us, and everyone has bent over backwards to learn our neighbors. But yet, like, the Jewish answer was, we gotta chill out on the Jewishness a little bit, Just talk about the bagels and lox. No matzo balls. Keep Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Kapparas out of it.
If Jewish Frontline doesn't work out for you, Shlomi, I think you have a career there. Let me ask you this: we just have about 5 minutes left. So we started all of this with essentially kind of the Jewish people shouldn't live with the mindset of we need to be protected, and I'm sorry I'm here. At the same time, you're a minority in every country besides Israel.
Yep.
And I don't want you to leave. I think you bless America. You're here in America. And so the majority of the people who are listening to this podcast, the majority of the people you're going to encounter in a day are not Jewish.
Yeah.
So you're saying, I think, you don't want to be patronized.
Right.
But what do you see as a healthy relationship between, especially evangelical Christians who are listening to this, and the Jewish community? If it's not we're here to protect you, what should it be?
To build each other up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have to dilute either of our beliefs or our communities to be able to support each other's communities.
Mm-hmm.
We can be there for each other when we need to, but we can still be particular to our own ways and our own people. You believe in Christianity. You believe that's the way to go, and that's and you should build your community as such. And Jews should believe in Judaism and believe in their story and their purpose. However you want to interpret it, however you want to apply it to your life, but understanding that you have you're part of the Jewish story. It started with the Bible. It's still unrolling as we live today. And when you wake up in America as a Jew, you don't get to just be an American Jew. You're a Jew in America.
Yeah.
You are part of the Jewish story. And when you stop living your life that way, you stop being part of that Jewish story. History is going to move on without you and without your descendants and this isn't some biblical course I'm talking about. We're talking about straight up logistics here. Like, if you're not in it, you're out, so that's really the only answer to how to keep the Jewish diaspora sustainable. But it's also it goes beyond, I guess it goes beyond just what, changing a mindset and how do we fight anti-Semitism. We're talking about the sustainability of the diaspora. You have to kind of take the attitude of the early, of the early pioneers in Israel who rolled up their sleeves, took hand-me-down tools and built with their bare hands. It didn't matter that the guy was a pianist or an engineer or whatever. Like, they went and they did. They weren't asking who's going to do it. They weren't asking, how do I do it? I don't know. They said, we'll figure it out.
And it wasn't just ideological, it was survival.
It was survival, it was necessity. And this is what we're facing again now in America. You can either figure it out or disappear.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what we're coming down to. One of my electrical mentor.
You should probably explain that.
Oh, I'm an electrician by trade, guys. And
we don't all have electrical mentors.
No, it's part of our Jew magic.
With your space lasers.
Yeah, with the space lasers. But he said, shoot, it slipped my point. Wait, let's backtrack a second. What was the last thing I was saying?
Well, you were saying that your electrical mentor was teaching you said something that made you think of the Man, I'm drawing a blank myself
Yeah.
now.
Oh no. What were we just thinking? What were we just talking about before I brought up my electrical mentor?
Well, about the position of the American Jewish community today, where it's not just ideological, it's survival. If you don't own this sovereign mindset, you're going to disappear as a people in America.
Right. I can't remember what
That's
my
okay.
mentor
Sorry,
had to do with that. No.
I got distracted by the electrical mentor.
But there was a good point there though.
Well, text me later. Maybe we can add it.
Yeah.
Well, Shlomi, I want to thank you. This is very much for a lot of our audience. This would be something somewhat foreign because it's more of an in-house issue that you're facing.
Yeah.
And yet it's something I think that Americans, and particularly Christians, evangelical Christians, should be aware of, that the Jewish people are not just kind of going down without a fight, that they are rising up. And I think maybe to just make an analogy, one of the common questions when we talk about the Holocaust is, why didn't Jewish people fight back? Well, if you dig into the history, that's not true. Jewish people did fight back. And certainly we're not to Holocaust era levels yet. I pray we will not get there.
Yeah.
But if the Jewish people now start doing what you're talking about, perhaps they can preserve the community in the diaspora against such attacks in the future.
Absolutely. I think a big part, when people do say that, they say, they pointing to the ghettos or the constant loading onto the trains and how they just went with it. And a big part, and I'm sure people in my community will disagree with me, but in my opinion, a big part of what led to so many deaths was leadership. Leadership didn't want to take the risks. They didn't want it. They would say, like, no, let's just comply, because otherwise we're putting everyone at risk, instead of turning around and saying we need an uprising, or we need a pushback. They went for the exile mindset, make ourselves palatable, as less threatening as possible, and that ultimately led to so many more people's demise than had, say, the Warsaw uprising happened sooner, then maybe they would have all been stronger. Maybe they would have, who knows, so.
Well, thank you, Shlomi. I appreciate that. And you don't need a protector, but you have a friend. And so I'm glad that I can at least be that for you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to Gesher, a ministry outreach production of FOI Equip, your free resource for learning and engaging with the scriptures from a Jewish perspective. To learn more, visit foiequip.org. And for more information about Ty, visit foi.org/Perry. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Shalom.